Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Black Post. The message will be sent today. No matter if you hate it, no matter if you love it, it will be sent. Let's get into it. Today we'll be talking about 25 influential Black people. But I want to start this one off just a little bit different. I've been motivated these last couple of days. So let's get into the Black National Anthem. And let's just slightly, not going into too much detail. I've been thinking about LeBron James lately and how he said he'll be campaigning for the Joe Biden campaign, and our brother is uninformed of what they're using him as. They're using him as a mule. They're using him as a slave for the Democratic Party for them to ride his back to get just a couple of more votes. Lift every voice and sing, till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Are Black people really free? Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last. Where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we meet thee. Lest our hearts drunk with the wine of this world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand. True to our God, true to our native land, Africa. Africa. See, we have to remember our roots, our American roots, and our deep roots from Africa. See, you're going to see influential, powerful people on this particular show today. And I want you to ask yourself one question. Did they follow the crowd? Did they go out and did and do what everybody else did? Or did they pave the way for us? Did these ancestors of ours, these great Black, powerful, and influential people did for us? Starting off with Frederick Douglass. I want you guys to really think about this for a second. This is so deep. I prayed for freedom for 20 years. Get off your knees. Get off of your knees. You have to do something, Black people. You have to do something. You're not going to be in a better position unless you do something. Praying alone does nothing. I prayed for freedom for 20 years, but received no answer until I prayed with my legs. Now, we need to understand that Frederick Douglass ran away from slavery. Frederick Douglass was an American social reformer, an abolitionist, and a writer and an orator. See, he had already tried to escape slavery many times before, but when he actually escaped, he was cunning. He was intelligent. He was smart. He said by posing as a free sailor, wearing a red shirt and a hat and a black scarf tied loosely around his neck, he boarded a train bound for Philadelphia. He boarded a train bound for freedom. Sometimes you have to wear a disguise. Sometimes you can't let everybody know who you really are because they will put your ass back in slavery. Now, today there's little proof, not that there's no proof, little proof of modern day slavery because we need to understand that it still goes on, but I won't go there today. As an escaped slave, as an escaped powerful black man, Frederick Douglass became one of the most prominent activists, to free other slaves, also during the Civil War. Not only was an author and public speaker and an abolitionist, he sought out to end the practice of slavery of his people before and during the Civil War. See, throughout his life, he was one of the most notable abolitionists that we have today. He fought for reform that extended way beyond the fight for the abolishment of slavery. Let me just read some of his quotes because I believe that we need to really soak in the spirit, call out the spirit of one of our great ancestors like Frederick Douglass and understand where he was during his time. Frederick Douglass says, "Power coincides nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will. If there is no struggle, there is no progress." I'm going to say again, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Hold the vote. What to the slave is the 4th of July? And I'm going to encourage, I want to enlighten, go out and read Frederick Douglass' 4th of July speech. I have some material to cover today, so I can't cover everything. These prominent, influential, Black, excellent, and intelligent people, they're going to be information missing because if I covered everything, it would be all damn day. Because we need to understand that these people risk their lives for us to be free. They risk their lives for us to have the right to vote. Not that we should when nothing is being offered. Not that we should because everybody is telling you to vote. What happened to being a free thinker? What happened to be a free speaker? When you go against the grain and everything else, somebody applauds you. But when you tell them that you want tangibles, when you tell them you want reparations, when you tell them you want justice, they tell you, don't worry about that now. Go and take your black ass and go vote for the Democratic Party so we can give you lip service 4 years after 4 years after 4 years, term after term after term. Frederick Douglass also says, it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. I don't even need to expound on that one. We have to do with the past only as we can make it useful to the present and the future. The soul that is within me, no man can degrade. I'm going to say that one again. That's very powerful. The soul that is within me, no man can degrade. Nextly, he says, the limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those who they oppress. Black people, we are being oppressed. Please listen. The limits of tyrants are prescribed by the endurance of those whom they oppress. And lastly, the white man's happiness cannot be purchased by the black man's misery. See, we need to understand back in the 1800s, powerful, intelligent, influential black people did not hold their tongue. And that's why they stand out from history. Why are you holding your tongue? Why are you scared to speak out on the atrocities of our black people, on our black community? Who are you? Now, we needed to pay some sort of honor and homage to the men that actually wrote the Black National Anthem, because there's a lot of meaning and symbolism in there. Let's talk about James Weldon Johnson and his brother, John Rosamond Johnson. Now, James Weldon Johnson was an American writer and civil rights activist who was also married to another civil rights activist, Grace Neal Johnson. Johnson was a leader of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Now, he wasn't really known to be a novelist, a poet, and a songwriter until him and his brother wrote Lift Every Voice and Sing. See, now his brother, John Rosamond Johnson, was an American composer and singer during the Harlem Renaissance. I remember this next brother, good old Hammering Hank Aaron, AKA The Hammer. He is still living, he's not living today. Our brother passed away. He is living today. He was born back in 1934, And what we need to understand about Hank Aaron during a very, very racist time, I think that's every time in America. You're asking, other than playing baseball, what did Hank Aaron go through? What did he go through? Now, despite hate mail, death threats against him, and plan to kidnap one of his children, one of his daughters, Hank Aaron still broke Babe Ruth's record. 715 home runs. Why is that powerful? Because through adversity, through death threats, through threatening his kids, Hank Aaron said, fuck all that. I'm going to break this white boy's record. I'm going to break this white boy's record. That's influential. That's powerful. Now, this next gentleman, this next activist, a lot of you know and love. Until this day, for most people, he will always be the greatest. Muhammad Ali. We understand that he was a professional boxer, an activist, and a philanthropist. One of his famous lines, I won't quote it word for word, but basically he didn't want to go over to fight the Viet Cong because the Viet Cong never did anything to him, never did anything to black people. He didn't want to go over to Vietnam and fight the white man's war. He was very intelligent and very outspoken. What are you? There's a little pressure in this today, guys. There's a little pressure because I asked you, who are you? What are you doing for your race that's highly oppressed? For your race that's been hunted down in the streets by white supremacists, race soldiers, and the police. And the police. I want to make you very familiar with these gentlemen. I cannot go in every vivid detail because I have so many others for you to be accustomed and informed about. Now, this next brother, Marcus Mosier Garvey, was a Jamaican political activist, publisher, journalist, entrepreneur, and orator. But see, what people don't understand about him, that he was the founder and first president, general of the Universal Negro Improvement Association and the African Communities League, which he declared himself provisional president of Africa, even though he was a Jamaican. He understood that he was an African first before his nationality. You are an African first. It doesn't matter where you come from. I don't care if you come from South America. I don't care if you come from, let's say, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Jamaica, the Bahamas, the UK, or the US. If you're an African descended person, the first and foremost thing that you are is African. See, I hate it. We're going to get about some Pan-Africanism. We're going to get on some Pan-Africanists because right now I feel like our brothers and sisters, not all of them, but some of them are disconnected to us Black Americans. As we reach out, they smack our hand. As we reach out, they chop our hand. They chop our hand. And what people need to understand about Marcus Garvey, he was one of those Black nationalists. He's the one who organized the first important American Black nationalist movement back in the early 1900s. This went down in New York. Now, some of his quotes, you guys better hold on to your seats. Because this brother right here, he wasn't no buck dancing nigga. He didn't toot it up. He didn't bust it wide. He wasn't busting it wide for anybody. They had to deport this brother. They deport this brother to Jamaica, then he still went over to the UK doing work. He says, a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. Come on, family. Come on, Black people. Come on, African descended people. He says a people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. How can you live? How can you live and survive without roots? You can't. That is what he is saying. Take this one on for sides. If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. Africa for Africans at home and abroad. Black Americans, you are abroad. Black people in the UK, you are abroad. Afro-Latinas, you are abroad. Black people in Jamaica, you are abroad. Black people in the Caribbean, you are abroad. Afro-Brazilians, you are abroad. These are the people he's talking to. Look at this beautiful sister right here. Marian Anderson, She was a singer who performed a wide range of music, from classical to music spirituals. She performed with renowned orchestras and major concerts in venues throughout the US and Europe. She made headways. See, we need to understand that sometimes you can do more just by singing. You can do more just by showing. Not everybody has to be an activist, but I believe that everybody should be an example. Everybody should be an example. You don't always have to go out and preach and teach, but you should at least be an example. This is one of my favorites right here, y'all. Maya Angelou. You know some of her work. She played in Medea's Family Reunion, Roots. Some of her poems on the pulse of morning, woman work, a brave installing truth, mother, a cradle to hold me, and also we had him. See, what people don't understand about her, she was an American poet, very poetic. But most important of all, she was a civil rights activist. I love this woman, didn't even know her. I love this sister and I never met her. She published 7 autobiographies, 3 books of essays, several books of poetry, and is credited with a list of plays and movies. She has dozens of awards and honorary degrees. Very powerful sister. Very powerful sister. I won't get into this particular conversation with you, family, about their tattoo, the black boule, or some of their political affiliations, because this is not about that. This is about Black excellence on the highest level. These are about those people who are very influential and purposeful for the Black race, for the African race. What about this brother right here? Author Robert Ashe. He was an American professional tennis player who won 3 Grand Slam single titles. Ashe was the first Black player selected to the United States Davis Cup team and the only Black man ever to win the singles titles at Wimbledon, the US Open, and the Australian Open. Very, very influential. Now, the next man doesn't really need an introduction at all. This brother right here is so powerful. James Arthur Baldwin. He was a novelist, a playwright, an essayist, a poet, and an activist. Yes, he was. See, what you guys don't understand, that this guy, this man, this brother, this activist was only 24 years of age when he arrived in Paris with just $40 in his pockets. He was unpublished. He left New York City because of the racism. We won't get into why he traveled to Europe and Paris and all that. But he just knew that it was less racist than the United States of America. And some of you are so sucked in. You are so planted, you can't leave your slave masters here in the United States of America. You love dancing for your master. And we cried the hand of injustice. And the first thing that we say is, woe is me. Why are they treating me like this? Why do you think they're treating you like this? I'm not saying all white people, all Asian people are bad, but there's enough to convince me there's other places where I can live. There's other places where I can live. James Baldwin says, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. Why are you running away? Stop telling motherfuckers you scared. What are we scared of? Death? What are we scared of? Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it's faced. What are you voting for? There has been no justice for Black people. No reparations for Black people. Go and look at my last podcast when I say hold the vote until. And it will just clearly, precisely break down to you why you shall hold your vote boycott, why you shall hold your vote ransom. Because everybody except the African American, the Black American, the American descendant of slaves, got no reparations. Everybody else got their fucking money except us. James Baldwin also says, it is certain in any case that ignorance allied with power is the most ferocious enemy justice can have. To be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. I want you to think about what this brother said. He said to be a Black person in this country and to be relatively conscious of who you are, conscious of where your people came from, conscious, you are awake, you have been awakened. You're woke. He said to be in a rage almost all the time. Wow. Has nothing changed for Black people yet? People are trapped in history, and history is trapped in them. What about this one? Love takes off masks that we fear we cannot live without, and no, we cannot live within. I imagine one of these reasons people cling to their hate so stubbornly is because they sense once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with their pain. The paradox of education, precisely this, that as one begins to become conscious, one begins to examine the society in which he and she is being educated. Uh-oh. So is this brother saying if you live and thrive under the veil of white supremacy in a racist justice system, and the system allow you to be broken and people to be rich off of your blood, sweat, and tears, that once you become conscious, now you have to examine the society in which you are being educated. Some Black people in America never, ever truly learned about Black history. The only thing they ever fed you guys was Martin Luther King and George Washington Carver. Some of you might have got Frederick Douglass. But I promise you, brothers and sisters, you never got James Arthur Baldwin. Oh, no. You might have been lucky to get Benjamin Banneker. Very intelligent brother. Now I'm going to tell you why. He was a surveyor, a landowner, a farmer, a mathematician, and a historian. What you may know that he's famous for is the invention of the wooden clock. They said one day a wealthy neighbor loaned him a pocket watch for the night. Banneker disassembled it, studied the parts closely, and then put it back together. He was also known as probably one of the first modern day astrologists. Because with his knowledge, with his talent, with his skill, he can make out patterns from which he could make calculations and predictions. So he was a mathematician and astronomer. But most important of all, he was self-taught. He was self-taught. Why does everybody have to tell you, you need to go to this class, that course, this class, this course, this class? Why can't you be self-taught? Our brothers and sisters back in the 17 and 1800s did. They were self-taught. Now, granted, there was a couple white people who helped along the way. I can't lie. But a lot of these brothers and sisters were self-taught. Amir Baraka, previously known as old Leroy Jones, he had to change that name. I feel you, brother. He was a writer of poetry, drama, fiction, essay, and music. You may not be familiar with this brother, but he was the founder and chairman of the Congress of African People. What I love about this brother here, he was a national Pan-Africanist. And under his favor, he had 15 chapters. He had chapters in 15 cities. Very, very powerful and intelligent Black man. And some of you are not probably familiar with Pan-Africanism or someone being a Pan-Africanist. See, Pan-Africanism is a worldwide movement that aims to encourage, influence, and strengthen bonds of solidarity between all indigenous and diaspora ethnic groups of African descended people. They understand that we have been dispersed to be the world slaves. We have been dispersed to be the world's mules. There have been slavery in almost every country in this world, on every continent on this world, except Antarctica. Ain't nobody going there. It's too fucking cold. Baraka was a founder and chairman of the Congress of African People, which pretty much led him to being a Pan-Africanist. He wanted to strengthen the bonds of all African descended people, no matter where you are. Who else is someone powerful? You're thinking Martin Luther King. What about somebody who stood beside him but had different views, but they understood? And I said this before, people, we may not agree on everything, but let's agree on one thing. Stokely Carmichael, also known as Kwame Ture. See, he was a prominent organizer in the civil rights movement and also a global Pan-Africanist. He was part of that movement. And this brother was born in Trinidad. Why do we have all the coons coming from the Caribbean and Africa? Not everybody from there is. But why can't we connect? Why are you so disconnected from us while we're trying to connect to you? And I know it goes both ways. I know it goes both ways, but why can't we connect? When you're over here, it don't matter if you're from Trinidad or Jamaica, your ass is Black. When you're over here, it doesn't matter if you're from Angola or South Africa, your ass is Black. And what does that mean? That means you will get discriminated upon no matter what. But there's room for coons. There's room for sellouts. There's room for people who have been buck broken by white supremacy. Let me ask you a question. When you finish cooning and they pretty much try to demolish Black people, Who do you think they're coming for next? I thought so. I thought so. But again, I wanted to give you guys some information so you can be familiar with these powerful, influential Black people. See, he's not just one of those brothers who was just marching beside Martin Luther King. You see how everybody nowadays, oh, I was marching with Martin Luther King, so I'm all for Black people. Talking on that bullshit. Nigga, you didn't do shit. I don't care if you're white or Black, nigga, you didn't do shit. Not like these brothers. Not like these brothers. But let's get on my beautiful Black sisters. Mary McLeod Bethune. Mary McLeod Bethune, very beautiful Black sister. She devoted her life to ensure the right to education and freedom from the discrimination for Black Americans. She was an educator, an organizer, and political activist. She opened one of the first schools for African American girls. See, she understood the importance of an education. She understood that a lot of us need to be educated and we need a teacher. She understood those problems. Now, granted, not everybody can teach themselves something. Sometimes you need a mentor. Sometimes you need a counselor. Sometimes you need a teacher. She also was the first African-American female to head a federal agency. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This brother right here has been to the highest of heights. See, this aerospace engineer and retired U.S. Air Force officer and fighter pilot is a former NASA astronaut. He is the first African American and the second person of African descent to go to space. He is the first African American and the second person of African descent to go to space. This brother right here has done it all. And today, he is still kicking. He is still kicking. What about somebody who's not as so popular? What about Weldon Bontips? What about him? He was a poet, a novelist, a librarian. And what he's most known for is his noted contribution to the Harlem Renaissance. See, we have so many Black, influential, powerful people. Sometimes you just need to be introduced to them. A lot of people don't understand that this brother right here, he was close friends with Langston Hughes. Anybody know about Langston Hughes? They were writers in the Harlem Renaissance. They were poets, novelists, historians, anthologists, archivists. See, he enriched and preserved Black cultural heritage. See, we need people in place. We need writers. We need novelists. We need historians. We need people to tell our story before we let anybody else. We need people to tell our story the way we see it and not the way they see us. See, when someone writes your narrative, when someone writes your story, they will never get it right. They will never get it right. So you say, who is Langston Hughes? This brother. This brother, he was a writer as well during the Harlem Renaissance. And one of his notable works was Not Without Laughter. And this book right here was very, very successful. Let America Be America Again is a poem he wrote back in 1935. And in that poem, he was criticizing the unfair life in America. But in that poem also, the poem conveys a sense of hope that the American dream is soon to come. I think he was talking about the Constitution that was not wrote for us. But nonetheless, the brother was looking up. The brother was looking up, criticizing the unfair life in America back in the 1900s. Because he wrote that around 1935. Do you understand, family, what we have been going through since the day we was brought to this country? Do any of you understand that? I know a person who understands it. Sojourner Truth, also known as Isabella Baumtree. But we're going to rock with Sojourner Truth. We're going to rock with that one. We're not going to go with her slave name. Sojourner Truth was an abolitionist and women's rights activist. Even though she was born in slavery, she escaped. Who the hell wants to stay in slavery? Some of you may not feel that you are in slavery, but I feel a sense of enslavement. When I drive the speed limit and I see the police, there's a little spider sense, spider tingling, as Spider-Man would say, that I should be watching my back. Why should I watch my back from those who have taken an oath to protect and serve? They must not talking about Black people, because I don't feel protected and I do not feel like I'm being served, except for fucking bullets. Except for fucking bullets. She was an advocate for the freedom of her people, and also an abolitionist for the freedom of her people. You guys want to know what Sojourner Truth name means? She says Sojourner because I was to travel up and down the land, showing people their sins and being a sign to them. And truth because I was to declare the truth until the people. We have beautiful Black sisters doing great work. Gwendolyn Elizabeth Brooks. She also was a poet, an author, and a teacher. See, her work often dealt with the personal celebrations and struggles of ordinary Black people in her community. She won the Pulitzer Prize for poetry, making her the first African American to receive a Pulitzer Prize. A Pulitzer Prize, the first one. Now, some of you may be familiar or may not be familiar with some of her first work. It was a post-war poet, Annie Allen, back in 1949. Now, we don't want to go too far back. We need to go far back enough to understand that Black people have never been tired. Black people, before we landed in this country, we was never broke. We never walked down with our heads down, hung off of drugs, as in the system to pick us up. Because we had brothers like Mansa Musa, who was and still to ever live the richest man in the world, roughly worth $1 trillion. So Jeff Bezos, you're about $800 billion away. He was an emperor. He was a king. And he gave his money away. They said he will go through the towns and cities of his country and other countries and kill the economy because he would just give away gold. You just give it away. Just give it away gold. Man, I got too much fucking money. Here you go. That's a true philanthropist. That's a true philanthropist. Now, the pictures you see, they're some slight representation of what they thought he may look like. And we need to understand he was the emperor of the Mali Empire, which is located in West Africa. Some people closely relate this to Ghana. And Ghana today is doing very, very well. I can't wait to go. A lot of people say, well, how did he become so rich? Did he go into the mines and, well, see, Musa got his prime, he got his gold, he got his money through trading, mostly gold and salt. Because gold and salt was in an abundance in West Africa. He used the money to strengthen the country's cultural centers and trading ports back in the 1300s. This brother was go down the street and just give money away. You need to understand, Black people, you come from a very powerful background, a very rich background. When I'm talking about rich, I'm talking about rich. I'm talking about the bag rich. I'm talking about money rich. I'm not talking about being poor like we are here in this country. No, I'm not talking about that. What about a brother that doesn't really fit the mold? Who may be a so-called white face in a white place. And not to be confused with the show Breaking Bad, but Walter White. Walter Francis White. He was a civil rights activist who led the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP. Now, as you can tell, Walter, he had blonde hair and blue eyes, but he embraced, listen to this, he embraced his African American heritage. We have motherfuckers in the Black race exercising colorism. Oh, I'm light-skinned, so I look better. You're dark-skinned, so you ugly. Motherfucker, we're all Black. You die just like me. We bleed the same. He embraced his African Americanism. And not only that, he fought to end discrimination that surrounded African Americans in this country. See, he used to go down and investigate lynchings, and he also worked to end segregation. See, White began to investigate lynchings in the South, which was a very terrifying regular occurrence of our people. This happened all the time. Now, his appearance, paired with his Southern accent, meant he was able to obtain responses when he questioned politicians and suspected lynchings. Think about that. We got a white face, so-called, in a white place, but all the while, a Black man trying to end discrimination and do investigation to prosecute and help prosecute those people who have done us wrong. While he was doing all this investigation, he did about 40 lynchings and 8 race riots. And each investigation was a dangerous endeavor because they saying, why is this white man so interested? Why is he questioning the nature of these lynchings and race riots? See, on one occasion back in 1919, the fact that White was, in fact, an African American was discovered. But he was tipped off to it, and he got the hell out of there. That's what you guys need to understand. I wish I might be ahead of my time when I say this, but fuck it. I wish we had more people like him. I wish we had more people that looked like him. Maybe we get some damn reparations. Maybe we'll get some justice. Just maybe. Because maybe you got to have a white face and a white place to achieve something in this country. And I don't mean that we have not achieved greatness in some of our people, but we're talking about on a nationwide level. We're talking about on a systematic level. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. You may be doing good. You got a house, you got 2 cars, you got money in the bank. What about your brother? What about your sister? What about your aunt? What about your uncle? What about your friend? What about those black people you see in your old neighborhood? What about those black people you see in your new neighborhood? What about those black people you see when you go to neighborhoods, the projects, the ghettos, the slums? What about them people? What about them people? What about them people? Shirley Anita Chisholm was an American politician and a catalyst for change. And she also was an educator and an author. She became the first Black woman elected to United States Congress, representing New York. Very intelligent, very influential, Black, beautiful young lady. I'm pretty sure she made her stance in history. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Black Post. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will encourage you to learn more about these influential people who made and paved the way for a lot of us today. But no one probably has worked harder than Harriet Tubman. She was an American abolitionist and political activist to free Black people from slavery. She also escaped slavery herself, okay? And some people said, she did around 13 missions, but nobody really knows. But they know she freed a lot of goddamn slaves. They like to dwindle her numbers down, but I'm going to give this sister her just due. I'm pretty sure she freed thousands of slaves. As a matter of fact, they used to call her the Black Moses. I'm just going to call her Harriet Tubman. I'm just going to call her Harriet Tubman. You know what's something else that's notable about Harriet Tubman? She was the first woman to lead a combat assault. Think about that. Think about that. We don't know exactly when she was born, but she died in 1913. But this sister was the first woman in this white man's country to lead a combat assault. She also was a Union scout during the Civil War. You cannot defy a sister like this. Another beautiful, Black, strong, influential sister. Now we're getting on to one of my late and great people right here. This brother right here, John Henrik Clarke. Let me tell you something. I just want to take a step back. Harriet Tubman, she said, every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. I had reasoned this out in my mind, she said. There was one of 2 things I had to write to: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other. Hold up now. This sister right here, Harriet Tubman, you know what? Let me go back. we need to take a look at her. We need to take a look at her one more time. She said, I had reasoned it out in my mind. I have reasoned it out in my mind. There was one or two things I had a right to. No, there was no gray area. There was no third option. No. Liberty or death. Freedom or death. If I could not have the other, I would have the other. If I could not have one, I would have the other. She said, give me freedom or give me death. That brings me into, again, John Henry Clark. Because even though this brother was very intelligent, he was a historian, professor, he also was part of that whole Pan-Africanist movement. He was a huge pioneer in the creation of that, okay? And African studies. But not to go too deep into John Henry Clark, because he's one of my favorites, I'll just give you some of his quotes, because I believe that these quotes, words have power. Word can liberate a nation, followed by action. See, we go out and we protest. We go out and we show the world that this country is serving us a big plate of shit, or better yet, a big plate of injustice. Not only do they discriminate us in housing, they discriminate us in justice, but they kill us in the streets like animals and dogs. United Nations, where you at? Nonetheless, John Henry Clark says, powerful people, hold on, powerful people cannot afford to educate the people that they oppress, because once you are truly educated, you will not ask for power, you will take it. Black people, are you listening? Black people, are you listening? American Descendant of Slaves with no reparations, are you listening? Those people who are going out to vote, are you fucking listening to me? John Henry Clark says again, powerful people cannot afford to educate the people that they oppress. Why do you think you get taught white America and you are a black person? The only person they teach you is Martin Luther King, because he was nonviolent. They would like to keep you oppressed. He says, because once you are truly educated, oh shit, you will not ask for power. You will take it. I'm gonna move on. He also says, whoever is in the control of the hell in your life is your devil. Wait a minute now. Whoever is in the control of the hell in your life is your devil. You guys ponder on that a little bit. He also says racists will always call you a racist. Think about that. A racist will always call you a racist when you identify their racism. To love yourself now is a form of racism. We are the only people who are criticizing for loving ourselves. And white people think when you love yourself, you hate them. See, when you walk around, say black pride, black love, and black own this, and I'm going to support my black businesses. He says, and white people think when you love yourself, because black people are you are black people. So when you love yourself, you hate them. This has nothing to do with you, white people. We are a people in a system of racism, of discrimination, of white supremacy. We are the oppressed. And we need to face and fight and take power from our oppressor. That's the only path to freedom. He says, no, when I love myself, they become irrelevant to me. Wait a minute. What is this brother talking about? He says, no, when I love myself, meaning when you know who you are and you know your ancestry and you know the power and you know the force of unity as a people. He says, when I know myself, they become irrelevant to me. They won't take his attention. They won't deflect the conversation. They won't march me to the ballot box and have me to vote just for any fucking body, for any damn thing. History is not everything, but is a starting point. History is a clock that people use to tell their political and cultural time of day. It is a compass they use to find themselves on the map of human geography. It tells them where they are, but more importantly, what they must be. Now, this goes out for a lot of you intelligent Black people, and I want to help you out with this. I'm going to make this a little more personal. When you guys get into arguments, when you guys get into debates, when you guys get into discussion with non-Black people, because I believe when we get involved in conversation with our own people, that we gain insight, especially if they're not coons or sellouts or sambos, but those who enrich us with information and help us to grow and think of different perspectives. This is for you guys. This quote from John Henry Clark is for you guys. It's quite simple. He says, I only debate my equals. I only debate my equals. All others I teach. All others I teach. I only debate my equals. All others I teach. If me and you on the same playing field, I can debate you. But when I realize that you're beneath me, I can teach you if you want to be taught. That is what that brother is saying. He also says every single thing that touches your life, religion, social and political, must be an instrument of your liberation, or you must throw it in the ash can of history. I love that brother. That brother was very intelligent, very, very powerful in liberating words. But this is, if anybody knows me, this is one of my brothers on my top three. I love this brother's coming up. El Haj Malik El Shabazz, better known as Malcolm X. We understand that he was an African-American minister, a human rights activist, and a Black nationalist, and a Pan-Africanist, and a Garveyite, who was a political and popular figure during the civil rights movement. But just like anybody else that's very influential and powerful, they assassinate him. They assassinate him. Malcolm X helped the people to be, regardless of your religion, to be conscious, to know about their history, to have dignity and pride for oneself. That is what Malcolm X has done for our people. And just like John Henry Clark, let me read just a couple of quotes because they're very powerful, they're very insightful, they're very liberating. I find peace and fury within these quotes. I find peace and I find fury in these quotes. He says, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today. You can't separate peace from freedom because no one can be at peace unless he has his freedom. How are you going to ask me to be at peace and I'm not free? Be peaceful, be courteous, obey the law, respect everyone. But if someone puts his hands on you, send him to the cemetery. Be peaceful, be courteous, obey the law, respect everyone. But if someone puts his hands on you, send him to the cemetery. You're not to be so blind with patriotism that you can't face reality. Wrong is wrong, no matter who does it or says it. You cannot be so blind, Black Democrats. You cannot be so blind, Black Republicans. You cannot be so blind, Black liberals and conservatives and people who are voting to vote, that you can't face reality. Unless we as a people unify and hold the vote and ransom the vote and boycott the vote and boycott businesses, just as Martin Luther King said, the speech before he got killed. See, wrong is wrong no matter who does it or who says it. It doesn't matter who does it or who says it, because this is what white supremacists do. They get a white agenda inside of a Black face. He looks like you, he talks like you, he dresses like you, but he has a different agenda. He has a different agenda, no matter who does it or who says it. Truth is on the side of the oppressed. This is one of my favorites here from Malcolm X. These last two are my favorite nonetheless. If you have no critics, you'll likely have no success. So if you guys want to criticize this, please do. Criticize it all you fucking want. Because my man Malcolm X got my back. He says, if you have no critics, you'll likely have no success. You'll likely have no success. And finally, nonviolence is fine as long as it works. There's an exception to the rule. Nonviolence is fine as long as it works. As long as it works. There's an exception. And one of his good books that people don't really know about is called The End of White World Supremacy. The End of White World Supremacy. Thank you for joining me today, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Black Post. The message was sent regardless of how you received it, regardless if you loved it or not. It was sent and the message was received. Have a great day.